I think being part of the Sudanese diaspora has shaped me quite a bit. I think it's hard when I it's hard being part of the Sudanese diaspora. It's hard being born and raised in a country that's not yours. It is hard, but I think growing up, I tried so hard to assimilate into this host culture in England, and I always think to myself, I don't know why, but I always have these thoughts where I think to myself, imagine if my mom and dad didn't immigrate to this country, then how would my life have been? And I always think that, and I always kind of say, like, I just don't know what the answer would be. So I think the diaspora has shaped me because I feel like I have somewhat two identities. I feel like I'm Sudanese, but then I've got this identity of being Sudanese in a different country. But it's also really interesting because I think if I went back to Sudan, I think I would still be seen as other because my Arabic is not the best. And actually, it's quite funny. I speak the Jordanian dialect. So yeah, the diaspora has just shaped me a lot in my personalities as well because obviously I'm Sudanese British, so I have that personality that I have with my friends that aren't Sudanese, but also the personality that I feel like I can show to my friends being who are Sudanese.
I don't think I connect to being a diaspora because to be frank, I didn't know what that meant until like 2 years ago when I got asked the same question. I've always just seen myself as someone who's Sudanese, just living outside of Sudan, but I didn't know there was like a term to explain it or anything like that. It's just, it's kind of what it is to me. So I don't know if I can say it shaped me in any way. The only thing that's really affected me is just the fact that I left Sudan during an age where I was like aware of the fact that I was leaving all of my friends and everything that I knew and all of my family to go to a country that's foreign to me, where people don't look like me, where, yeah, like I just, it really took a toll on me. So that's just it. But I don't know if being a diaspora has shaped me in any way.
Okay, I think being part of the diaspora has shaped me in many ways. Firstly, I think being Sudanese, not living in Sudan, has forced me to educate myself more about Sudan and not just about the situation that's going on in Sudan, but growing up, like I'd have to actively search for, oh, like what's trending in Sudan right now? What kind of music are they listening to? Like what's cool there? Because obviously that's different in London. So I think I was always actively trying to be more Sudanese. Yeah, being a diaspora affects different people differently. So depending on whereabouts you live in London, there are some areas where there are more Sudanese, so you're surrounded by that, you're more exposed to that, and there are some areas where everyone's like not from the same place as you. Obviously, me growing up, I went to a very diverse secondary school, so I think everyone kind of would claim where they're from, and like they would make it a thing by like putting your flags in your Instagram bios, and everyone was kind of proud of their background. So yeah, I think depending on how you were raised as well, I think some parents would speak to their children in English, so they obviously would be less in touch with Sudan, but then those who would be spoken to in Arabic or their parents can't speak as good English are probably more in touch with their Sudani side.
So being part of the diaspora has kept us really connected like to Sudan. I'm really grateful for like the community that's built in London and through the friends that my parents have like made when they first moved here. I think specifically it always reminds me of like Arabic school. So I went to Sudanese Arabic school, and that was kind of like how every Saturday like we would meet other like Sudani friends, and we just kept in touch with kind of like the culture, and we would hang out. And it's like a lot of my friends now are from there, so it's really nice like to have that because you wouldn't really see them otherwise like during the week.
I think I couldn't imagine not being from two places. I think it's often something we can think of as a negative thing, that we have two places that we kind of call home. But what that means is often you have other parts of your identity or other rich parts of history of who you are to call upon. And I think particularly when I think about being, Sudanese, and I think often like how people have been through so much, and I think that sometimes that can be a really, positive element to kind of strengthen your resolve in the difficulties of everyday life or challenges that we go through. I think it still can be really challenging. It's a relationship that evolves over time and requires, nurturing. I think it requires challenging at times in terms of questioning why parts of our culture are a certain way and why we do things. I think it's important that we, as a generation that maybe haven't been raised in Sudan, question what carries forward with us. But I think also let's not forget and strip out all of the beautiful parts of our culture. I'd say the last thing is sometimes the most challenging part is the feeling of otherness. So both here in the UK, but also in Sudan, it's easy to feel, feel other in both spaces. And yeah, just sort of, I'm sure it's an experience that others have faced, whether it's here, oh, but where are you really from? Or when it's in Sudan, it's like, oh, like, why are you speaking Arabic with an English accent? So it's that's probably one of the most challenging parts.